So some of the challenges that we noted with the position and our org charts was, as the chief academic officer, typically you're responsible for casting leadership and compliance for academics. And naturally, when you're somebody who sits centrally and you see the academics at 4 different colleges, you see the opportunities for partnerships. You see the opportunities for collaboration. You understand ways that we can work better together. And what we found was, because the deans didn't report to that position, ultimately, even though there might be really good recommendations coming out of the chief academic officer position, the deans were really not compelled to do it because the reporting structure lined up in a different area. So there were some challenges there. We elected to put the position on hold, and so some of those duties stayed with me, but then really the deans have done a great job stepping up and assuming some of the responsibilities. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that Alyssa and Eva, who have worked historically in the CAO's office, have really stepped up to do a lot of that work as well. We knew we'd be able to move through on the status quo without one short term. The reason it really became important for us to put the CAO role back in is because we know we're making this move towards guided pathways. We know we're going to be developing our transfer curriculum. And this is something I get excited when I talk about it. We're putting academics back at the heart and the center of everything we do. You can't do that if you don't have that leader who is casting the vision, who's providing the guidance and setting those guide rails for all of this work to happen. So that's, as quick as you get from me, that's sort of, in a nutshell, why we decided now is the right time to bring the CAO role back to IECC. In my mind, there's really 3 primary job functions that a chief academic officer holds. And I say this looking at the director of human resources who writes the job description, but ultimately a CAO is responsible first and foremost for leadership and compliance. They should be the person who is setting the expectations for educational excellence. And while they're doing that, making sure that we're meeting the compliance floor that has been established by the Illinois Board of Higher Education and ICCP. So that's number 1. The second that I think about for the chief academic officer is oversight of curriculum development and assessment. This is probably the piece about where IECC is going that I get the most excited about, is we're going to have transfer curriculum. This is where we have tremendously talented faculty that have been deprived the opportunity to build programs that have regional reputation, because right now they offer classes. Soon we're going to be offering programs that people can say, Olney Central has got one of the greatest programs in communication. Go to Lincoln Trail and they've just got a phenomenal business program. So we're going to be developing those curriculum, and that's one of the things that the CAO will help to set the parameters into how that curriculum is developed. So curriculum development and assessment is important. And the third is faculty development. That's something that I think has been missing from the organization. If you're really committed to a teaching and learning mission, there should be somebody in the organization that is committed to helping your people become better at what they do. And so that's really the third wheel that I see as being important for our chief academic officer, being involved in developmental evaluation and supporting our faculty with the tangible resources they need to grow.
Something that I found interesting with Dr. Gower's leadership whenever we were talking to him over the course. So I started not too long after he did, in August of 2020. And one of the questions that I repeatedly asked as we were kind of moving and we were going, that I found interesting under leadership, is I was like, CAO, when are we doing a CAO? When are we doing a CAO? What are we thinking there? And Dr. Gower was like, it's coming, Andrea, it's coming if we're going to that. And he was like, I could see it kind of coming. And so it was just a really exciting time over the course of the last, I'll even go back 12 months now that we've kind of talked about it and where it's going, and the excitement in us and as our leadership as we're going through that. We're knowing that person's coming and that we're going to have that where it's going. So I'm just adding that to you. So that's something that is exciting to us in leadership, that's here. And it was fun to watch, or not watch your leadership, but in your leadership and trusting his leadership, that he knew it wasn't the time, and now it's the time, now it's the time where we're going.
Yeah, it's the right time to bring person in. We didn't want to bring somebody into the organization in the old model just get through the process of teaching them, well, here's how you work in the old model, and then say, and by the way, now we're moving to this new model.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly frank, we have a really good group of deans who were certainly more than capable of shouldering the day-to-day operational pieces, and I'm sure it made their lives more complicated and more difficult. But in some ways, it also, they actually changed the name of their Council of Deans to the Council of Chief Academic Officers. So I think it was good for our deans to, number one, feel empowered in their jobs, and certainly assume some of those responsibilities temporarily. I think it helps them have a deeper appreciation for the role.
I agree.